everybody, welcome back to C&S Corvettes in Sarasota, Florida. I'm your friendly Corvette guy, Lyle, and I've got some interesting stuff for you today. We recently have begun partnering with a new parts supplier that is actually located in our home state of Florida. They're building really cool body kit, like rocker moldings, chin spoilers and stuff out of both fiberglass and carbon fiber for the C7 and the C8 Corvette. And they were kind enough to send me a set for a C7 so that we could show you the quality of their product, show you before and after on the car we're going to be working on today, and give you a little bit of insight on what's involved in installing it if you choose to do it yourself. So without further ado, let me introduce you to today's patient. This is Dr. Weinstein's C7 Corvette. And it is very clean, white with black highlights. And let's get a little walk around this real quick. You can see it's, you know, he hasn't really added anything. He's got our LED smoked front and rear side markers and rear reflectors on the car already, but he really hasn't done much else as far as dress up stuff. So this is where we're starting. Let me lay out the body panels that we're going to be installing today, explain what they are, and then we'll get with the install. Okay, I've got the body panels laid out. Let me show you these panels, where they're gonna go, and then you're gonna get a real look as we're installing them, the way it really transforms the way of the car and the stance of the car. So right beneath me here is the Aero Package rocker molding for a stock C7 base car. It is done in carbon flash, which is factory GM color used on a lot of the trim parts that came on the C7 from the factory. It's black, but it has kind of a rainbow metallic flake in it, so it really catches the light. And when these are, you can see the substantial nature. Now these are fiberglass. Atomic 6 makes both fiberglass and carbon fiber panels. Obviously the carbon fiber are beautiful, but they have a real premium. These are substantial. They are not overly heavy, but they're very, very solid. And I can tell you this, it took me about 15 minutes to unpack these from the way they had them triple wrapped in 2 layers of paper and a big layer of bubble wrap. You want to talk about someone who obviously cares about their product. I've never even installed one of these on the car, but just the way it came packaged, you could tell they care. And that's a good first step. Let's walk around the front. So this is going to be the front chin spoiler that we're going to replace the factory flat trim with, and that's going to nestle up under there and kind of tie together the sides and the front to give it a much more aggressive track focused look. Again, the unit is, this is also fiberglass, but here in the sun you can see that beautiful kind of rainbow sparkle that kicks up when the sunlight hits it. It is a very, very upmarket piece, and I am excited to see what this is going to look like once we get it on the car. I've held the panels up to the car myself, and man, it looks pretty cool. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get Dr. Ray, have him pull the car in, get it up in the air, and we'll start going through mounting points and get you an idea of what's involved to transform a car using these 3 panels from Atomic 6 Carbon. We'll talk to you in a minute. And here we are, guys. Got the car up on the lift in the shop. Ray and Blake are starting with the front splitter, and obviously first thing you're going to do is test fit it. Now all of these panels have pre-drilled holes. Some of them are for receiving factory screws, others are going to be for rivets that you're going to drill holes for and add later. So first thing to do, obviously, we removed all the original factory screws, and now we're going through and seeing what lines up where. We're going to go ahead and put the screws in, but we're not going to snug them all the way down. That'll give us the opportunity to shift the panel forward, backward, left, and right as necessary to match up to the car. Now it looks like all the pre-drilled holes in the center are exactly where they were supposed to be, which is nice. But we're going to, as we move out to the edges, oftentimes it's the very ends of the piece where you have to drill an auxiliary hole to mount it correctly. Here you see us, yep, there it is on the driver's side. We had to drill a hole about 1/4 inch away from the factory hole to match up to the actual car. No big deal. We can now just use the factory screw right through that hole and secure the panel and move forward with the project. What you see now is Blake is fitting up the left and right hand outer air dams. These are mostly aerodynamic. The center air dam is a little more essential to cooling the car. The sides are really there just for high speed aerodynamics. But definitely, you don't want to forget to put them back on because they're supposed to be there and they do perform a function. Now over to the right hand side. And snugged up and secure. Once those are all back in place, we're going to begin drilling and putting in rivets. Now what you see Ray doing here is very important, where you take the rivet we're going to use and using electrical tape, we mark the drill bit so we know exactly how deep to drill, because we don't want to go any deeper than necessary. You certainly don't want to hit anything vital, important, electronic, or expensive. So we're going to go through, going through the holes in the piece and drilling into the body. Just that, looks about 1/2 inch, maybe a little more. And as you can see, we try to do these in a very professional, uniform way at the main stress points on both sides and at the front. Now, you're just going to use a regular old-fashioned rivet gun, and Ray's going to demonstrate here how that works. So you take the long skinny nail end and put it into the rivet gun. Securely seat the rivet all the way up into the hole. There you go. And then you're going to squeeze, squeeze, squeeze until that rivet pops loose. There it is, nice and clean. That's the way you want it to happen, but it doesn't always happen that way. Oftentimes, as you'll see in the next clip, you're going to put the rivet in, you're going to seat it, you're going to do everything right, but then the shaft that you're using to pull the mushroom end of the rivet into place will not break off where you want it to. So, from another angle, here it is again, doing everything right, squeezing, squeezing, making sure that that rivet machine is straight up against that rivet. Oh, and it still didn't pop where we wanted it to. So obviously you just grab a pair of side cutters and trim off the excess. And squeeze. There you go. And here are the rivets all in place. We used a total of, well, looks like about 14 rivets. And that is now very well attached to the car. This is us lowering down the car to get a look at our work. Make sure everything is lined up, make sure it is up to our standards, and yes, this panel fits beautifully, especially on that white car. Moving on to the side rockers, there are slotted holes in the panels that match up to factory screw locations. And moving to the back, you'll see there's another screw and another hole. And right at the back here, there's another factory screw, no hole in the panel though. So we'll probably end up drilling a hole right about there. Yep. So, first things first, we're going to pull the factory screws out just like we did on the front, and we're going to put the panel up where we want it on the car, and we are going to loosely mount this panel. Now these are slotted in one direction, so you get a little forward and rearward adjustment. So we're going to put these screws in place. We're not going to tighten them down all the way, giving us wiggle room to get the panel exactly where we want it, because we want to make sure that if there is any gap, we want the gap at the front and at the rear to match exactly. Now on this one here at the rear, again, kind of like on the front, the screw slot in the panel was just a little bit off from where we need to be for the good installation on the car. So we're going to drill our own hole through the fiberglass and put the factory screw back in there. And there we go. Now we're looking at about an 1/8 of an inch gap, maybe a 1/4 inch in the front. Let's go to the back and take a look at that. Almost exactly the same at the rear. So that is a good install. Very high quality, everything's symmetrical. Here we are at the back again. Remember I said we were going to have to drill that one little extra hole to get that little screw in there. So we're going to go ahead and do that right at the edge of that fiberglass panel, so we can utilize all of the factory screws that came out of the car. Obviously, we're going to repeat this entire function on the other side of the car, but I don't think you guys need to see it twice because this is fairly simple. I will tell you this, you do not want to attempt this without having access to a lift. Doing this on your back and the angle at which you have to drill and use the rivet gun and stuff, it's going to be extremely difficult. So this is definitely something, if you got a buddy with a lift, you got a mechanic who you're friends with who has a lift, do this on the lift. It's going to save you so much time. Now you can see we started the riveting process on this panel, and you can see we're also drilling our holes right as far out as we can and still to get a good bite in the body panel, because we want to strengthen that panel as much as possible so when you do inadvertently step on it, which you will, it doesn't pull away from the body. And you can see that we had also marked the drill bit again, so we knew exactly how deep to drill. And same function with the rivet gun. And you see how he keeps pressure on that rivet gun against the rivet. That's imperative, because if you don't do that, you're going to break that shaft prematurely and then you're going to have to start all over. The rivets all nicely in place. We spaced these at about 12 inches and buttoned one at the front and at the rear just to make sure everything was held in place. All right guys, here we are. Car has come off the lift, just finished putting together the video of the install, which I'll stitch that together and you'll see that right before this point. But now that we're here, let me show you how the car came out, and we're in perfect lighting conditions. So you can see here the front splitter, very tasteful. Doesn't hang too low. It's not going to be something that you're going to be catching on every driveway. It's not going to be something that is ridiculous, but it really adds a bit of menace to the front of the car. I'm particularly happy with these rockers. I think that is just a really attractive design. It's similar to what GM did with the Z51 and the Grand Sport and some of the other stuff. I like the fact that it has this little dip in here. That's not just for style points, guys. That is actually so that when you're opening the door and getting out and stepping out, you're not constantly stepping on this panel, or like what most people do, catch the back of their foot on it. So that's why that's there. That's for ingress and egress. Walk around this way and you can see it from this angle in the light. That just looks mean. Right there. Yeah. Yeah. I think that looks really, really nice. Fitment was better than usual. I'm very happy with the construction of it. The guy said this job took about 2.5 to 3 hours for the templating and the drilling and the riveting and all that stuff. But you know, for the amount of change it makes in the car, that's not a bad deal. So if you're interested in doing something like this to your own car, either yourself or having us do it, feel free to contact me at Lyle at CorvettePartsCenter.com. If you have a C8, they have some really neat stuff coming for the C8. And I'd love to show you that. In fact, I'll see if I can't do a video on that in the next couple of weeks. I'm excited about this. These guys seem to be really good dudes. I'm very happy with their attention to detail. They're right here in Florida with us. And I look forward to doing more with them. And if this is any indicator of the kind of product we can expect from them, I'm sure we will be doing quite a bit more. In the meantime, have a great weekend. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.